Hello my students, welcome to EPG Patsala. Myself Professor B.K. Chaudhary, retired professor, Department of Library and Information Science, Sambalpur University, Odisha. Now I would like to talk to you metadata and Dublin core, paper knowledge organizational structure cataloging. Before I am going in detail, I would like to discuss something about introduction. Metadata can be defined as structured data which describes the attribute of the Dublin core and also contents of an original document to provide instant access. So, basically metadata helpful for structured data which describes the attribute. Secondly, it is a description of objects such as images, e-text, multimedia and other electronic files. Also, you can know, or I can say it is data about data. So, you can say metadata is data about data or information about information. In a very simple language, you can understand this. The simple example of metadata are, what are the examples of metadata? So that it is clear from you. So, I would like to say index, schema, table and view. Also, the other form of metadata are mark 21 and rules sets used with it such as ASR2 are metadata standards and our traditional library cataloging. So, the very good example of metadata is library traditional cataloging. So, catalog is a very good example of metadata. So, objectives. So, I am fully confident that after discussing with you or after talking with you, you have got a very clear cut idea what is metadata, what is the meaning of metadata, what are the types of metadata and what benefits we will get from metadata, why it is necessary. In the introduction, you can also understand the reasons for the development of Dublin core, why Dublin core came into existence, why we have drafted Dublin core. Also you can know the initiatives and efforts by different organizations for the genesis of Dublin core, because Dublin core does not come instantly or independently. So, a lot of organizations have taken initiatives. So, what is Dublin core metadata standard and the mission, what is mission, what is objective, what is goal have been also I will tell you in detail. So, basically there are two types of metadata, one is simple Dublin core and another is qualified Dublin core. And as we have got 8 areas of description in ISBD, here also you will find 15 elements of simple Dublin core and has been explained elaborately, extensively, giving appropriate explanation as and when necessary. Further, 3 more elements have added to the above 15 elements. So, again I would like to repeat you for your better understanding and clarity. So, meta means, what do you mean by meta? Meta means something of a higher or more fundamental kind. Data, what do you mean by data? Data which describes a resource or resources, or data which is associated with the object which describes that object. So, this is you must understand, this is data and the above what I told regarding meta. So, metadata refers to networked electronic resources or digital objects that exist in the internet and descriptive information about www, World Wide Web. So, basically it refers to the networked electronic resources. Also makes it easier to retrieve. So, to retrieve the information or data, it helps to make it more easier or manage an information resource, and it is commonly stored in database systems linked to the objects described. So, that when you will have a link to database, you can very easily see how the objects are described. Then hypertext markup language, that is HTML web page, and the indexing data held by search engines is also metadata. Link to information resource through hypertext links to the URL. What do you mean by URL? URL means Uniform Resource locator. So, with the help of a URL, with the in the HTML page, you can find the information resources, and there is one established link will be there. On the whole, the metadata can answer. You see, the metadata can answer what, why, how, when, who, about every facet of the data that are being documented. So, metadata will give you instantly what is the what, why, how and everything. So, metadata could be both machine and human generated description of a resource. That is, human means bibliography data and opaque. Opaque means online public access catalog. Now let me talk to you about purpose of metadata. To facilitate discovery of relevant information in the context of www and internet, and helps to organize electronic resources, because in the internet all the electronic resources are haphazardly arranged. It is not organized properly, and people, customer, the client, the users wanted that all these electronic resources available in internet should be organized properly. So, it will help. Then to be a source of bibliography data, to facilitate users for data searching and browsing, and instruct how to interpret the data and how to transfer data and data documentation. So, all these activities can be done with the help of metadata. Also, it helps or facilitates or it gives an opportunity for interoperability and supports digital identification and supporting archive and preservation. To characterize the digital work sufficiently for the user to understand its contents, purpose and condition of use. So, to know or to understand what it is contents, what is the purpose of use, this is one of the character. It serves as a basic tool for cataloging of web resources. So, it is one of the most fundamental tool how to catalog the web resources, which are abundantly available in the web and internet resources, and to organize vast amount of information available on the internet. You know, internet is a network of networks. It is a heavy pool of information resources. So, it is very essential by applying metadata for easy accessibility and effective use of the required information. So, what is the functions of metadata? How it functions? So, metadata describes the content, as I told you. So, what is the content of the document that it will describe? Physical description. What is physical description? Its location, where it is located, type and form of the information necessary for management, which includes migration, history dates, security, authentication, file formats. The different functions, what are the different functions? First is resource discovery, one of the first function is. So, metadata performs the same function as an efficient, comprehensive and updated catalog in resource discovery. What is the use of a catalog in a library? Catalog is a mirror of the library. It is a key to the resources of the library, and catalog reveal what are the documents, what are the resources available in this library. Likewise, metadata performs the same function as an efficient, comprehensive and updated catalog as we are using in the library in the resource discovery. It is allowing resources to found by relevant criteria, identify resources. So, what the user needs, it must be identified from among so many vast resources, bringing similar resources together and separating dissimilar resources, providing location information. So, bringing similar means bringing all relevant information together and separating the irrelevant resources. Then second is organizing electronic resources. How it helps? Unprecedented growth of web-based resources, aggregate sites, portals is immensely useful in building the static web page dynamically from metadata stored in database. Then organizing web information through channels. As channels are pre-selected websites that automatically push streams of information to a user's browser when user is before the browser and used for continually updated information. So, for updated continuous information, it is highly necessary. Then interoperability. This word I have used first, meaning of a So, what do we mean by interoperability? Interoperability is nothing, it is the ability of multiple systems with different hardware and software platforms, data structure, interface and networks effectively to exchange with minimum loss of contents and functionally and to use the information that has been exchanged in a purposeful manner. Then comes the digital identification. Most of the metadata schedules include what? ISBN, International Standard Book Number, to uniquely identify the work or object to which the metadata refers, because ISBN is a unique number. The whole of the world ISBN is given to only one item, it cannot be duplicated, it cannot be given to other document. The location of a digital object may also be assigned. So, how we will assign the digital object? There are also other alternatives. What? By using a file name like Uniform Resource Locator, that is URL, or DOI. What is DOI? Digital Object Identifier. So, persistent URL are preferable because file locations change frequently. You know, file locations are changing frequently. It is a must. So, making URL and therefore metadata records invalid. So, to make valid the records, you must use the persistent URL. Archiving and preservation. As and when the hardware and software technology changes, you see, today you are purchasing one computer having suppose Pentium 1, 2, 3, 4. Again the configuration has been changed. So, that is become defunct, that is become old. Again you have to purchase a new one, and the software technologies have been changed. Then configuration and your other systems are also going to be changed. So, it creates problem for archiving. So, digital resources will not survive in usual form in future, because the digital information is fragile. Today you will get the digital information at one place, it will be lost after a few days or after some months, and every possibility of being corrupted or altered. So, if we will what I have discussed, the inference will be, or the moral of all the discussions are to ensure that resources will survive and continue to be accessible in the future. The track and lineage of a digital subject. What do we mean by lineage? Lineage means where it came and how it has changed over time, to detail its physical characteristics, how its physical characteristics changed, and to document its behavior in order to emulate it on future technology. So, it is highly necessary that archiving preservation require special elements. So, what are the types of metadata? Now, let me tell you, metadata can be grouped into three broad groups. First is descriptive, second is structural, last is administrative. Let me tell you more about descriptive metadata. It refers to the intellectual content, intellectual thought content, and association of a document or resource in such a way that it facilitates source identification and collection of information. So, it refers to the collection and description of document or resources. Then next, it includes elements. What it includes? So, for describing an element, what information you like to give? If you will remember, which I have discussed earlier, that in ISBD there are 8 areas of discussion given. So, title, status responsibility, edition, publication, physical description, notes like that. So, for description also some elements of information must be there. So, what are those informations? Title, as I have told you in the ISBD there, author, date of creation or publication. What is the abstract? Little most important things about this content of the day. Keywords, information regarding the analog source from which a digital object is derived. Then structural metadata. So, what is the structural metadata? It describes the structure of file or data set or other information package that is being described. So, which package or data set is described? The structure of file, data set, everything is described. Also, what it does, it indicates how related files, how relevant files, how linked files are bound together, and how that the object can be displayed and disseminated on the variety of systems. Also, it narrates, it describes the attributes of an object like the size, electronic format, and digital capture process. Then let me tell you what is administrative metadata. It is nothing. It includes metadata for object management, right management, and how it will be maintained and its preservation. So, these are the administrative part of metadata. So, right management, object management is highly necessary. Then why we are reading about metadata? What is the benefit we will get? Is there any benefit of metadata or not? Let me discuss you in detail. So, it helps for resource discovery. I have already explained. So, just I am giving nutshell, I am refreshing your mind. It also helps for location and resource documentation. Then resource selection, how the appropriate resource to be selected. By selecting the resource, it is not serve the purpose of the user. It must evaluate whether how far it is useful for the reader. Then assessment. Then safeguarding IPR. What is IPR? IPR means intellectual property right. So, whatever you do, you must safeguard the IPR. Otherwise, legal application will be there, legal complications will be there in future. It also facilitates to filter obsolete data. To filter obsolete data means irrelevant data, unused data, outdated data. Obsolete means outdated data, and provide only current, recent information. Permits to sort the information according to various forms besides according to the subject content. By telling this, I am hopeful that minimum you have got a clear cut idea what is metadata, what are the definition of metadata, what are the examples of metadata, what is the function of metadata, what are the structure of metadata. So, that you must have a clear cut idea about this. Now, I will talk about Dublin core. So, before I start to begin with the introduction, finding relevant information on the WWW has become increasingly problematic due to unprecedented emergence of networks or resources. So many network resources are coming. It is very difficult to get the relevant information from such vast multitude of information. It seems to be very possibility is very less, and it creates problem also. Then secondly, current web indexing to satisfy the demands of resource discovery tools is to be a poor substitute for richer varieties of resource description. Then next point is, what is the Dublin core is an initiative to create a digital library card catalog for the web. We have prepared library card catalog for the libraries, but for the digital library card catalog for the web, Dublin core is highly necessary. Then the Dublin core metadata element set DCME is a what does it means? What do you mean by DCMES? DCMES means Dublin core metadata element set is a standard for cross domain information resource description. It was developed. For whom it is developed? It is basically developed to be very simple, concise, for describing web based documents. So, it is basically and fundamental and pinpointed for the web based documents, how it will be described. Then it is extensively extremely used to describe digital materials such as, what are the digital materials? Such as composite media like web pages, images, sound, text and video. Then before I will discuss in detail about the Dublin core, let us trace the history. Let us see how Dublin core came into being. Who are the responsible for this, how it came, where it came. So, a brief history let me tell you. The Dublin core metadata initiative began in actually March 1995, and the DCME set, it was arised from long discussions at a workshop in 1995. Who was organized this? Who was sponsored this? Sponsored by OCLC, Online Cataloging Library Center, and the National Center for Supercomputing, that is abbreviated NCSA. They are responsible to brought together the librarians. They have invited all the librarians, digital library researchers, content experts, and text markup experts to promote better discovery standards for electronic resources. So, after taking initiative by inviting such galaxy of library experts, this Dublin core has been started. So, well, as the workshop was convened, why it is called Dublin? The very simple meaning is the workshop was convened in Dublin. Dublin is in Ohio. The element set was named, so the element set was named as Dublin core. What do you mean by core? Core refers to the fact that the metadata element set is a basic but expandable. Core means always a basic. Then Dublin core, who is taking the initiative for maintenance of this? So, the Dublin core metadata initiative is looking after the continuing development. They have started Dublin core, but any organization should take responsible for continuous development and related specifications, and also took initiative to promote widespread acceptance of metadata standards and practices. So, they have taken such a responsibility. Then Dublin core is made up of what? Dublin core made up of? Because as I have told you, ISBD consists of 8 areas of description. Dublin core is made up of 15 elements, metadata elements, I have told you, that has emerged from this effort in interdisciplinary and international consensus building that offer expanded cataloging information and improved document indexing for search engine programs. So, these 15 elements has been organized or formulated with a consensus effort. What is Dublin core metadata standard? So, it is the most important metadata initiative for web resources description. So, it is basically useful for describing the web resources. So, you be clear in mind. It is not helpful for the description of the books and journals. So, they have devised to keeping in mind the description of web resources. It is an exchange format for sharing records. Dublin core standard was intended to be descriptive rather than evaluating. So, Dublin core standard was made with the intention that it should be descriptive. It is an effective element set for describing a wide range of network services. Also, it will describe a vast range of network services. It is an excellent tool for resource discovery. For resource discovery, it is one of the marvelous tools for network resources. So, what is the mission? Confronted with the exponential growth of electronic resources and problems to catalog all these resources, the goal was to define a few elements and some simple rules. So, you have to define some few elements and simple rules, because otherwise you cannot confront, you cannot face the challenges with the exponential growth of electronic resources. That could be applied to non-catalogers. Then secondly, simplicity of creation and maintenance. So, you do not feel any complexity or very confusing or taking a lot of time. So, it must be very simple of creation and maintenance. Interoperability, as I have discussed you earlier, what is interoperability? Interoperability among collections and indexing systems. Then extensibility, means there is no fixed, it can be extended whenever required, commonly understood semantics. Then what are the forms of Dublin core? So, they have devised, they have formulated two forms of Dublin core. First Dublin core is simple Dublin core, the next was qualified Dublin core. So, what is simple Dublin core? This expresses elements as attribute value pairs using just the 15 element metadata elements from the DCMES, and qualified Dublin core consists of which can be used audience, provenance and right holders. So, we will discuss one by one in detail. What are the 15 forms of elements? 15 forms of element. First is title. As it is, I have told you, as it is in the case of printed materials, non-new materials. So, title. So, title, the name given to the resource by the creator or publisher. Who will give the name to the title? The person who is responsible or who has written that document, he will supply a name of the title. Or in case of the publisher. So, some books also published by the publisher. So, he is supplying a title. A title will be a name by which the resource is formally known. If the title is in HTML, then the source document be viewed, and the title had, if any, also included as a title. So, in the HTML page, if there is no title, you have to view and give a title. Then comes the author or creator. That means, who is responsible for the thought content of that work, so, or the resource. So, the person, one person or more persons, or organizations, as I told you, corporate body. Basically, primarily you can say primarily responsible for the intellectual content of the resource. For example, I have already told you intellectual content. So, the person who is responsible for the intellectual content, you can say author, you can say creator, you can say the person who is responsible. Then, for example, authors in the case of written documents, artists, photographers or illustrators in case of visual resources. Then subject. What is the subject of that resource? Or you can say keywords. So, you take any title, organization and management of university libraries. So, what are the keywords? Organization, management, university libraries. So, those are the keywords. So, the topic of the content of the resource, typically a subject, will be expressed as keywords, as I told you, via keywords or phrases or classification codes. Classification code means call number that describe the topic of the resource. If we will translate the call number, what you will find? You will find the subject, you will find the topic of the resource, because class number gives the translation of the subject. So, call number will give you the descriptive topic of the resource. Then description, an account of textual description. What describe you will give? You should give the description, textual description, but description of the text, the content of the resource, including abstracts in the case of document like objects, or content description in the case of visual resources, and reference to geographical representation of content. So, you have to give a reference also. Then publisher, who publishes the resource is the publisher. So, to speak more in detail, the entity responsible for making a resource available in its present form, such as a publisher, I told you, or a university department, or a corporate entity who published that document. Then other contributors. So, what do you mean by other contributors? Because if a document is published or a document is created, or then only authors are not responsible. There are also some joint authors. If two authors have written, if three authors have written jointly, joint authors are also the contributors. Besides this, creator who have made significant intellectual contribution to the resource, whose contribution is secondary to the individual, the entity specified in the creator. So, as I told you, you give the name of creator, but other persons who are responsible, either a translator or a editor or joint author name, you have to give. Then date. There is no confusion about date. What do you mean by date? Date means date of publication or year of publication, when it is published, or when the resource was made available in its present form. A date associated with an event in the life cycle of the resource. So, when this event has been devised or has been published, that date should be necessary. Then a resource type, the category of the resource. What are the category of a resource? Such as whether it is a home page, whether it is a novel, whether it is a poem, whether it is a working paper, whether it is a technical report, whether it is an essay or dictionary. In dictionary, that must be written clearly. It is expected that the resource type will be chosen from a numerous list of types. So, format means the physical or digital manifestation of resource. So, what is the physical format of the resource? The data representation of the resource such as text or HTML, ASCII, PostScript, file or executable application format will be assigned from enumerated list such as registered internet media types. There is a enumerated prescribed list is there, registered internet media types format, that may also include. So, while giving the format, you consult that registered media type which is prescribed, which has been recommended. From that you can give. Then a resource identifier. How you will identify the resource? You see, in case of books, journals, with the help of call number, you are identifying the exact book from among thousands of books on the shelf. So, also in case of this Dublin Core, resource identifier is a string or number used to uniquely identify the resource. What are the examples? From network resources. So, how you will identify out of thousands webs of network resources the exact resource which you need by means of, with the help of what? URL, as I told you, uniform resource locators, or URN. It is a new abbreviated form. What do you mean by URN? URN means uniform resource numbers or digital identifier object, and ISBN, Indian Standard Book Number. So, source from where you got that source? The work, either print, whether it is print or whether it is electronic, from which this source is delivered, if applicable. If that is delivered, for better clarity, better understanding or better guidance of the readers, you can give a reference to a resource from which the present resource is derived, so that they will be quite clear. Readers will not be misguided. Then language, in which language it has been written? What is the language of the intellectual content of the resource? Relation. So, relationship to other resource, that is reference to a related resource. So, you see, what are the related resources? I am telling you: money, banking, electricity, magnetism, classification, cataloging, indirect tax, direct tax. These are all related words. So, coverage means which area is coverage, which area, whether it is covered only Delhi or North India, whether it is from 1990 to 2008. So, geographical area is there, period city is there also. So, that if you give the geographical area or period, then it will be clear. So to be more clarified for your better understanding, I am telling the extent or scope of the content of the resource, that is the spatial, that is technical word, the spatial locations, which I have explained in a very layman language, place, name or geographical coordinate, and temporal duration, that is which duration, period, level, date or date range, which I have told you. Then rights management. You see, the content of this element is intended to be a link, a URL or other suitable URI, information resource index. This is another name, uniform resource index. You know URN, you know URL, but this is information index as appropriate to a copyright notice, a right management statement, or a server that would provide such information in a dynamic way. So, to conclude, rights information often encompasses intellectual property right. You must be very careful regarding intellectual property right, copyright, because suppose I have written something, you cannot take it as it is, or you cannot copy it whole book. You have to take the permission of the author or the person who has created the resource. Otherwise, you are liable to be punishment, legal complication, legal allegations will be done against you. So, it must be very careful. Then let me discuss at last what is qualified Dublin core. Qualified Dublin core means it consists of audience. What is audience? A class of entity for whom the resource is intended. Audience means, you see, there is a short CD is there. Suppose use of libraries. So, who are the audience? Audience are whether postgrad students in library science or graduate student library science or for research scholars. So, when resource you are selecting, you must know very carefully, very clearly. So, what is audience? A class of entity for whom the resource is intended, written, may be determined by the creator or publisher. So, publisher and creator, they are writing or they are in the cover page or about the book they have written for whom the book has been written. So, it will be very clear. So, next point is provenance. What do you mean by provenance? Try to understand what is provenance. A statement may include a description of any changes in ownership. Suppose one resource is being owned by today somebody, and after some years the ownership has been shifted or has been given to other, and custody of the resource, who is now custody of resource, under whom the resource is there, since its creation that are significant for its authenticity, integrity and interpretation. So, perhaps you are clear what I told you. Then secondly, rights holder, that is the last one of qualified element core. Rights holder, a person or organization owning or managing rights over the resource, whether the resource is being managed by the person or organization. Organization means by any department, either Ministry of Defence or Ministry, any department, any organization, any private organization, any public sector, anybody who is owning or managing rights over that resource, because they have created, so they have got the right for that resource. Since I have written a book, I have got the sole authority for that book. So, to indicate the entity, it is better to use the URI or name of the rights holder. So, for better clarity of the users, you give the informal resource index or the name of the right holder you can write, so that there will be no confusion in future.